Before we start this video, I just want to give a large thank you to Liam D, Joseph Hoffert, and Mark for their support on Patreon. By the way, guys, I sincerely hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you so much for your support. Alright guys, let's make a basic health system for our characters so we can take some damage. So right click, UI, and let's make a canvas. Next we're going to right click on that and create an empty. I'm going to call this health bar. And I am just going to size it up to a likable size. Then I'm going to drag it into the top left corner here. I'm going to make the width and height even because I'm a neat freak. And that looks pretty good. Alright, I'm going to right click and make an image on that. Then I'm going to click the anchor point. I'm going to hold Alt and then hit the bottom right symbol here. That will make the image the same size as the health bar's dimensions. I'm going to call that health bar fill. Next I'm going to go back up to the health bar and add a component slider. Then I'm going to make it not interactable. I'm going to make the transition to none and the navigation to none. And then I'm going to drag the health bar fill inside the fill rect here. And now you can see I can drag this value up here from 0 to 1 and it will change what the bar looks like. So we're going to connect this value to a script and we're going to connect that to our player's health. So I'm just going to go ahead and color this red. Alright, next let's right click on our health bar, UI, and image. I'm just going to make a background image here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make it the same size as the health bar's dimensions. And I'm going to put it above the health bar fill so it sits behind it. And I'm just going to call this health bar background. And all I'm going to do this is just set it a solid black. So that way when the health is decreased, you can see how much health you've actually lost from the total health that you have. Because there will be a black bar behind it. Okay. And that looks a lot more clear. Next I'm going to add a component. We're going to make a new script and call this health bar. Okay, so in Visual Studio, as is tradition, let's make a namespace. We'll call mine SG. And this time we're going to say using unityengine.ui because we're working with UI elements. So let's erase the start and update method. Let's make a slider and call it slider. And let's make a public void for set current health and pass an int called health. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say slider.value is equal to health. Let's save that. Get these scripts out of the way here, make it look a bit neater. I'm actually going to call that current health so it's a bit more clear. Next, let's make a void called setMaxHealth. We're going to pass an int, call that maxHealth. Slider.maxValue is equal to maxHealth. Slider.value is equal to maxHealth. So essentially what's happening here is that our slider's maximum value is going to be equal to the maximum health our player has. And the slider's current value out of the maximum value will be equal to the player's current health. So if the player's health goes down, we're going to use this to make the slider go down. If the player's max health is set to a certain level, we're going to use this to set the slider to a certain max level. Let's save that. Next, let's go to our player, and we're going to add another script. Let's call this player stats. Okay, let's set up our namespace as is tradition. Next, we're going to come down here and we're going to erase the update method but keep the start because we're going to need it. So let's make a public int and call that health level. And we're going to set to like 10. Next, let's make a public int and call that max health. And then a public int and call that current health. So basically, you're going to take your health level and somehow we're going to get your max health depending on your health level. And then at your max health, you're going to have the current health that you have. Maximum health being the maximum value that you can have. So we're going to say current health equals max health on start because when we start the game, you want your player to be at full health. Then we're going to make a void and call it set max health from health level. Most games use a formula, so we're going to say max health is equal to health level, we'll say times 10. In Dark Souls 3, the health stat is called vigor, but having 40 vigor does not give you 40 health. It gives you approximately 1200. The point I'm trying to make here in video games is that usually the character's health level does not determine the health points that they have, but usually the health level is paired with some kind of formula which will give you your total health points. I'm not going to get into the creation of these formulas in this video because these are things that should be done on your own and should have a personalized touch. and will require much balancing and testing later down the road. So for now, I'm just going to use an arbitrary number like 10. So my health points is going to be my health level times 10. And we're actually going to change this from a void to an int. And then we're going to say return max health. And on start, we're going to say max health equals set max health from health level. And we're going to save it. Next, let's come out here and make a public void called take damage. And we're just going to pass an int and the damage. Then we're going to say current health equals current health minus the damage. So when this method gets called, it's just going to deduct the damage from your current health. Let's go up here and say public health bar and call it health bar. Then we're going to say health bar dot set max health, and we're going to pass our max health. So that will set the value of the health bar, the max value, to our character's max health. Wait for that to load. And drag in our health bar. Excellent. Okay, we actually need to do one more thing to make sure this works. So let's come down here, and then we're going to say health bar dot set max health, actually set current health, sorry. Health bar dot set current health, and then we're going to pass our current health. So after we take damage, our current health will change, and then we'll pass our current health onto the health bar, and that will update the health bar as such. Let's test this out. So I've just placed a little fire effect here under this empty game object that I called fire, and I have just a cylinder here below it. But on top of the empty game object, I have a capsule collider, and I have it set to is trigger. So if you want to do the same, you can. And I'm going to add a component onto this, and I'm going to call it damage player. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so when our player walks into the fire, he's going to take some damage. So namespace SG, as is per tradition, erase the start and update functions, and we're going to use something really cool. This is called onTriggerEnter. And basically, when something enters the trigger, we can do stuff. So we're going to say other, the other being the thing that enters the trigger, dot get component player stats. And we're going to make an int up here for damage. I'm just going to put that at 25. And then we're going to say, we're actually going to make this into a variable and say player stats is equal to other dot get component player stats. And we're going to say if player stats is not null, player stats dot take damage. So what we're doing here right now is we're actually reaching in and seeing if the object that walks into this fire has a player stat script. And if it does, we're calling the take damage on the player stat script, and we're inflicting 25 damage to that player's health. So after trying to test it here, I see that I have an error. So let's double click this. So it brings us to this slider, and it's a null exception error, so it means we forgot to drag on our slider. So back to our health bar script, we will see that the slider is empty. So let's drag our health bar onto that, and now the problem should be fixed. Optionally, if you don't want to have the slider as a public variable, you can make it a private variable, and you can just make a start method here and say slider is equal to get component slider. Okay, that should be it. Let's go in the game and give it a test. Okay, cool. As you can see, when I walk into the fire here, we do take health damage. That is fantastic. However, it does look a little bit plain right now, so what I'm going to want to do is add an animation so that when we take damage, you can visibly see it. So I'm just going to pull back my Unity here and haul in the damage animation that I have. I'm going to full screen this again. I'm going to go and hit my player to make sure I'm on the right animator. I'm going to click on the animator, and I'm just going to go over here on the override layer and drag in my damage 01 animation. I'm also going to take foot IK, and I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to right click and make a transition back to the empty. Okay, we also need to add a tiny bit of code, so let's jump back into Visual Studios. So let's go down here, and we're going to actually first need to call the animation handler, or the animator handler. So I'm going to say animator handler, and I'm going to make an awake method. And I'm going to say animator handler equals get component in children animator handler. Next, I'm going to come out here and take damage and say animator handler dot play target animation damage 01 is interacting is true. So when you take damage, you will play the damage 01 animation like so, and you will not be able to move out of it. And that looks great. So it adds a bit of liveliness to our taking damage. Now see, we could stop here, but when I get to 0 health, nothing really happens, and that's kind of uneventful. So let's see what's behind my handy dandy Unity window, and oh, it's another animation. This one is called Dead 01. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a death animation to our player if our HP reaches 0. So let's drag the animation here, but let's not bring it back to the empty, because you don't want to be able to just come back to empty after the death animation plays. So then under take damage, I'm going to say if current health is less than or equal to 0, let's just bring it to 0. So it's just always 0, it's never below 0. And then we're going to say animator handler dot play target animation dead underscore 01 is interacting is true. And since we didn't reconnect that to the empty, is interacting will never be false, and you will not be able to move or roll or come out of it once you're dead. And then I'm just going to put a note down here and say handle player death. So if you were further along in the game, you could reload the level, or if you died in multiplayer, you could come back out of it. So let's see what happens here when we get 0 health. And there we go, our player is dead, and because I did not reconnect the animation to empty, we are unable to move or roll or play any other animation or do anything besides just lay here and wait. Thank you guys very much for watching. We got some pretty cool features done today, and next time we can start making our weapons do some damage. So please, don't forget to drop a like, it does appease the YouTube algorithm gods and helps get my video around. Also, if you're feeling super cool, go check out my Patreon. See you guys in the next one.